I'll do it for you. That's all right. I can do
We're
that.
rolling.
I can do 8th grade math.
Thank you.
You probably can't.
Welcome, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, so I know everybody's anxious to get started. Welcome to the November 13th meeting of the Continuous Systemic Improvement Advisory Committee. I'm Michelle Storr, and before we have a motion and approval for the agenda and the meeting minutes, we'd love to hear from Mrs. Morgan.
Okay, so first of all, apologies, I got to my office and I could not get my computer open, and I had all my notes on my computer, so I'm doing this from memory. First of all, thank you for your presentation to the school board, that went great. Let's see, MMM, we've named it, Gateway. We picked the colors, black and gold. We picked the mascot, Golden Eagle, and that groundbreaking was today. So we're off and running with our sales tax money, putting it in the ground, building seats for kids. I'm not quite sure where all you are on the strategic plan, but I will say that we had a great presentation by the construction people about the construction improvement process. I don't know if you are aware that during the recession, the district cut its spending on maintenance by about 50%. We went off our regular cycle of maintenance and improvements, whatever. And we're sort of scrambling to get that process back in place. And I have to say, I'm sure that's part of the strategic plan, get your expenses under control and know what your priorities are, et cetera. So that was a great presentation to the board. We had a presentation by the Academic Services Department talking about their role in the strategic plan. And I'll have to bring those notes back for the next meeting because I can't do the recall. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but we have one local initiative with the Lee County delegation at the state level. It has to do with a proposal that Ms. Fisher put together working with our lobbyist. It has to do with creating a pilot for an 8th grade curriculum for mental health services for kids. And quite a while ago, Kathleen Pasadomo had agreed to carry it in the Senate. We thought we had a sponsor in the House. That fell through, but we got news today that Byron Donalds is going to carry it. And those are pretty big names and faces up in Tallahassee. So we'll see what happens. Typically, when you put together, and this is an ask for about, I believe, 800, or is it 800 or 350,000? I can't remember. Do you remember? Maybe it's 300.
I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, it's just.
I'm thinking it may have been the 800 because I was thinking we were trying.
Under a million. We were trying to get under a million.
Yeah.
So 850,000.
Yeah.
Typically, those things take 3 years. You know, the first year, everybody's trying to understand, but second year, to get some more people on board, and third year, everybody gets it and they jump on. But we're optimistic in that mental health in the schools is something that is being focused on at the state level. So we're hoping that we have a solid enough proposal that they'll be willing to invest in us as a pilot for their investment in mental health programs for kids going forward. So we'll see what happens. And that's all I can remember. But I will answer questions if anybody has one.
No, thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, and I will be here till June.
Yes, that's exciting information.
We used to change over our assignments in November. The board has decided to change board assignments for committees in June. And so everybody who's in place goes until June. So
That's wonderful.
And that sort of came out of a recommendation from this committee last year that board members maintain their committees for 2 years running. And so they were going to allow members who it was their first year to have that choice, that they could stay an extra year if they wanted to. And then the discussion came up, well, it makes sense to have someone for the full year so you're not changing in the middle. And so at last week's pre-reorganization workshop, that decision was made. So I personally was quite excited.
We're very glad to have Mrs. Morgan continue with us. It gives us some continuity as well, so that's great. The next thing up is for us to have a motion and a vote on approval of tonight's agenda. So would anybody like to do a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting? Is there a second?
Oh, second.
Great, all in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Great. So the next thing we have to do is approve the minutes from the October 15th meeting. Hopefully you all had a chance to look through those. If anybody has any changes for the minutes, you could mention them now. And if not, I'd love to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the October 15th CSI committee meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Lauren. Second?
Sure.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining?
I'll abstain. I wasn't present.
Okay, great. Same for mine. Okay, great, thank you. So the next thing we have on our agenda is an overview from the Communications Department. Ms. Irma Lancaster, we're looking forward to hearing from her. Talk about the communications plan, especially as it relates to the district strategic plan, which I understand there is a plan in the works for communicating with the community about the strategic plan. And so after we hear from Ms. Lancaster, we will have a charge in our committee on something we can work on either tonight or if we don't have time at the next meeting. So welcome.
So just a quick introduction of how this came about as well. This committee has been busy last year, and one of the recommendations that came from the committee was that the board consider having a communications advisory board. And the communications director at the time was Lauren Stillwell, who is now our chief of staff. And she and Dr. Atkins talked about it and felt that maybe one wasn't needed full time, but that it would be a great idea. And Lauren was, at that time, was considering it for herself. She wasn't volunteering someone who hadn't been hired yet. That the communications director would come and meet with each of the committees to see what types of feedback you felt needed to, what types of information you needed, and what types of feedback you felt the district needed to solicit. So that got changed a little bit when Lauren changed positions. So we're very excited to have Irma Lancaster with us, all the way from California. She's been working out there and has a lot of experience out there in communications with the school district. So without further ado, I'll turn it over.
Thank you for all of that. Yes, because I'm a whole 3 weeks old today. So I don't have all of that ready for you today. I just briefly met with Cindy and we've been going over a little bit of how communications is part of the district's overall strategic plan. So what I can do is share a little bit about what communications does, some of the services we provide and how we communicate out to all of our stakeholder groups. And we hope that you as members, not just of this committee, but outside of here are also receiving information from us. And if not, I'm happy to take any questions or comments or feedback anytime while I'm speaking, because I don't really have a formal presentation, just a conversation about some of the things I'm seeing from the department as I'm still getting to know the entire staff, which is fantastic team. And also across the district, I'm really happy to be a part of this team. But yes, I'm from California, if you want to know a little bit about me, and I do come from another school district. So my most recent experience is leading communications for a school district, about a third the size of this one, a K-8, 30,000. So this is my first time doing communications for high school students. It's a little bit different and I'm excited about that. So that helps me because being around a school district and all that comes with it is very familiar to me. I know when I started over there was a lot that I needed to initially learn about how school district functions, how it's funded, the different entities. So that's helped me there. So I'm just kind of, still getting my feet wet. But I do want to talk to you a little about our department. So our department's made up of 18 staff members, including myself. We do oversee the print shop that puts out all the beautiful materials that you see come out, including some of the great groundbreaking posters and invitations and programs that were put out today for today's event. We have, in addition to me, we have an assistant director who is also the public information officer, which means he is our lead for any media calls, and not just when media calls, but also our lead in putting information out of stories that we would like covered. Recently, one of the things that I've added that I'm saw we weren't doing is morning show interviews, because that's a really easy opportunity to go in and have someone just talk about, whatever campaigns we have going on. So we're actually just starting that. We have our first one next week, so I'm looking forward to that. We have a manager of public records. Our communications does manage all the public record requests that come in through the district, and those are quite lengthy. We have a huge log going every day, anything from emails to personnel to, past board meetings, et cetera. We have a coordinator of multimedia, and he oversees 3 multimedia specialists, and they're tasked with creating videos that are put out through Lee TV Schools, which hopefully you all check out every once in a while, and also through our social media channels, our Facebook, our Twitter, our YouTube, and our Instagram, which we're also a little bit slow, but in the last week, I've kind of challenged the team to be more active, and I'm actually seeing them be really competitive. So I'm really excited about that. So it's kind of like, well, I posted. I'm like, everybody posts, because I think that creates engagement and interaction. I think before it was more scheduled, so you'd see like a news story pop up or a video, and it was all fantastic, but I kind of felt like sometimes you wanted it to be more organic. I happen to be somewhere really cool and I want to share this with you, and so that's kind of what we're seeing happening now. So hopefully you're one of our thousands of followers on one of those platforms, if not all of them. And if you aren't, make sure to look us up because there's a lot of information coming out that way. So that pretty much makes up our team. And the way we put information out, again, like I mentioned, I forgot our digital media manager who oversees our district website and also supports the schools and the departments with theirs. So that the way we put out information is we use the media, we use our website. If we have a specific campaign that we really want to push, we'll ensure that that information is very visible on the homepage, the district homepage. We initiated a district app that I believe was last spring. I think since then there have been about 3,000 downloads. And the app is very similar to the website, but we'll do push alerts if we have something urgent that we want to put out. We use School Messenger, which is also what our website is powered through. So we put out information to whatever stakeholder group, either to one specific school or just to, or to the entire district or to staff, whatever the message is and the target group. We use School Messenger, which can send a text, it can send an email, it can send a voicemail, and then you can pick whatever language you want it to be sent out to. So if a parent selects, I want to receive my information in Creole, whatever, then it'll be sent to them in that way. We also use a platform called Peach Jar, which is a way that outside organizations can share their information with internally. So if there's a nonprofit that's having, a vendor fair where people can go get information on health, et cetera, and they want to invite the Lee County school employees, which we have very many, they can send us their information. We use a platform called Peach Jar where we get their flyer with information and it distributes via district email. We also recently, I think in the last few months, implemented a podcast, which is shared via all our digital platforms. And of course, our social media, as I shared with you. And then committees such as this, I'm going to be making visits to all the committees to hear what you have to say. But also, I believe there are some parent committees, and we work that way in communicating to our families. And have been talking with our academic services division on some ideas based on the district that I came from. We have several parent committees that were very organic and easy to build, because I know one of our goals is, community engagement, especially in families. And, we're just not seeing it very much. Our last community forum, as much promotion and effort as went out into it, we had one parent show up. And I'll say two, one of them happened to be an employee, but he was there and he provided a lot of great feedback. So I'm really looking forward to us helping support how we can grow those parent committees and that parent engagement. We were lucky in California, our funding is a little different, so we were able to hire staff to help support and bring families out. So I was able to see a program of family engagement get built from one parent showing up to thousands of parents showing up to us not knowing what to do because we didn't have any space for them. But that took a lot of people, that took a lot of effort. But in those 4 years, we went from the 1 to 1,500 at a meeting, and we just didn't know what to do. And it was beautiful and amazing. But again, we're funded differently over there. So I'm trying to think, well, what are the things that we didn't need a lot of money for that we could hopefully implement here? So I'm hoping to be able to support those efforts so we can communicate better with our families. Specifically in our, more inland communities, I think, we lack, involvement there. And I think there's different types of more grassroots that has to be done. They're not all seeing us on Facebook. They're not all seeing us, in our digital platforms. So there just needs to be a little bit more engagement. So I'm excited about that. And I'm here to listen to you. I know another thing we've done are the surveys, which I think were proven to be effective, especially with the naming of the school. So I think that really made the community feel that they were a part of this. Despite, maybe some of the disagreements, it really in the end ended up doing what it was supposed to do. So I know that the surveys aren't something that we just did externally. I know internally there were surveys across the district, and I think each department as well wanting to know, are you happy working here? Because that is also another thing another one of the district's goals is we want our workforce to be happy. We want to retain great employees. We want to attract employees. So I know the surveys is also a way that we're doing to get internal information. So that's what I learned in my 3 weeks here. I'm sure there's a ton more. But so that's a little bit about the department and about what we do. And I'm happy to take any questions or feedback on where the heck I came from or what we do or anything you want to know. And I may not have the answers. Again, I'm 3 weeks old, but I'm happy to write it down and get it for you if I don't know it today.
Well, that was definitely a comprehensive overview. It's hard to believe that you got all of that in 3 weeks.
That was in an email at 5 o'clock. Just give them an overview. I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
So I probably can speak for everyone on the committee that I appreciate, you giving us kind of the breakdown of the communications department and some of what you've learned in the past 3 weeks and also some of the things that you're, thinking about working towards. So that's great for us to have that as information. Communications in school districts is near and dear to my heart. It's actually the area I was in before I went into higher ed. So I worked for a K-12 district as a communications administrator.
Oh, wow, look at that.
So it's fun.
Well, I would be interested in anything you have to say for sure.
So Cindy, I don't know if you wanted to share with the committee what you were hoping for us to work on with regards to communication, but before you do that, maybe if anybody has any questions for Irma, or any additional information that she might be able to help with after her sense of 3 weeks.
I know, at least we went.
First one's kind of a two-part with the social media, kind of with the school board Wi-Fi. You can't access any of those sites on the school board Wi-Fi. You can't get on Twitter, you can't get on Facebook, you can't get on Instagram, they're all blocked.
Okay. Well,
So that may make it difficult for organic grassroots, if someone's doing something in a school building to do it. If I can't actually access, like I hear now, I can't get on Twitter. Or I can't get on Facebook, or I can't get on LinkedIn, or I can't get on any of those social media sites are all blocked by the school board Wi-Fi. And a lot of the schools are built very well, so you don't have cell service. So now I'm leaving in an hour and a half and it's out of my break. So I don't know what the workaround is there, just kind of an observation of things, kind of I know people.
no, I agree. I will definitely ask our IT team about that.
And the other one is Peach Jar.
So some feedback I've gotten there, I'm a vice president of a nonprofit, a youth sports organization. So we try to get like, hey, we're gonna do a free clinic.
And we want to send out the
Flyers. It's like $25 or $50 a school to send out the flyers. Right, so if we're trying to send it out to every school south of
Daniels or Corkscrew, that becomes,
basically a burden that a nonprofit, it's not a spend we can really have.
Okay. I don't know how that works, but I'll
yeah, they charge
definitely look into it.
That's how,
Okay.
Each charges you?
they want to charge $25 or $50 every school we want to send them out to.
Oh, okay.
and part of that also,
The other feedback on that is,
some PTOs or PTAs
I've heard, I don't know if there's actually
back behind the school,
what they told me, is this is actually a detriment to them because now it's harder for them to bring in like business partners. Because they're like, well, that's great, but I'll be a business partner with the school and hey, I could put a banner up and then, you know, obviously they want to either market their wares or whatever it is or advertise to the school. And obviously we don't want the kids going home with the value pack coupons all the time. But if it's the right type of business relationship, like, well, I'm not gonna give you $500 for a banner and then have to pay Peach Jar $25 every time I wanna send like a flyer out or something like that. So I think just looking at that to see, yeah, I think for nonprofits, it stinks. Because then schools don't wanna hand out, they're like, no, you gotta get the Peach Jar, we're like, well, what do I do with all these flyers? Or the kids that don't have, they're not gonna look, they're not getting the text loader app on their phone, like if it's, you know, it's free sports or Cub Scouts or whomever, or some sort of community event. You know, and I still look through my kids' backpacks.
Sure.
I think the good and the bad about that.
You know, our PTO SAC committee wanted to send out a virtual flyer about doing the box tops. They do it virtually now instead of having to actually cut it. And it took like 8 of us adults sitting around going, well, how do we send out a flyer to all of these parents? You know, we couldn't actually figure it out because I put it on the website and it's just like a little PDF. It doesn't look good. And so then I'm like, well, I guess we're just gonna print it and send it home. I'm like, no, you're not. We don't print paper anymore. So I was like, well, how do we do this? Like, you can't really email it out to parents. So like, it's kind of become like a weird situation. I'm sure there's an answer already out there, but our school didn't have that answer.
And Peach Jar is totally new to me.
And we tried to do
Yeah.
Peach Jar, and we were told that's not what we use it for. Like, it wasn't for our internal communication to send out flyers to parents. So if we really just want to send them a flyer to parents electronically, I think the communication for our schools to know how to do that would be really, again, it could just be my school, but we really did try to reach out to parents.
Does school messenger allow for that?
Yeah, it's like it.
I don't know if it allows for
School
attachments, I'm
specific.
not sure, but I can see if we can do it.
I will say, my wife's in the nonprofit sector, she says the open rate on Peach Jar is just abysmal. Just, there's no, yeah, it's, you know, the old school was much more, like you said, you go to the kid's backpack, or they'll always hand you something, but nobody opens Peach Jar.
Okay, that's good to know.
I did because I knew I was coming here, but.
I have 2 sets of inquiries. You mentioned the surveys that were sent out. Were they email, I'm assuming?
I actually don't know, I'm not sure.
No, the surveys are posted on our website, and generally an email is sent to parents through, or school messenger sends out a message to parents, and it's also posted on all the school websites, but all of our parent ones are web-based.
Okay, and then you mentioned, I think, that you sent some surveys out to people to find out how they felt about working with the school district. How did that happen?
Those go through our HR department.
Yeah, and that was department, yeah.
They're emailed?
Yeah.
I'm assuming everything is, but. Okay, now, the hard question, what happened to them after you got them? What happened?
As, from what I know, at least in my department, I have access to some of that information, so the names are anonymous, but the information is not, and so that, I have all of that, and, you know, the main question we want answered is, would you recommend working in this department, are you happy, and thankfully, 100% of the staff is.
Okay.
But then you have room for feedback, how would you make things better, et cetera. So there's a lot of suggestions in there that I've been going through that I actually did a lot of them already, and were very easy things. So, I mean, I even had one of my staff members give me flowers the other day because she was so happy, and I was like, okay, this new, but sure. But, you know, I'm using the information in my department, so I don't know if you can expand.
I can, let me just send this away for a second here, so I'll stop ringing. So, yes, we have different surveys come from different places. So communications did have an internal staff survey that was part of their own strategic plan, their department improvement plan, which had some of those suggestions. Then there is also one that is sent out to our instructional staff through our human resources department. That did not go out last year. It did go out the 2 previous years, and it's currently open right now for staff. That information is tabulated. It all goes out on SurveyMonkey. So SurveyMonkey gives you some really nice graphs. That's then put together and used in a variety of ways. For that information as a district-wide information is used and presented like at principal meetings and to different committee meetings, and is used to target what things are most likely to cause, and cause is kind of one of those words, because with surveys, you don't really get a direct cause. But the way people answer questions, we can use those to look at what are the things that are most likely that people are unhappy with that they choose to leave. And that information was presented to principals so that they could look at the culture as a whole of their school. And if a teacher answered a question in this certain way, they were X times more likely to leave or X times more likely to stay. So it's used to try and work on our turnover when we're specifically on turnover when we're looking at the instructional staff. The information from the parent surveys has been used in some different ways as well. One of those was around the branding, trying to get a baseline on were people familiar with the brand, and they were not. I mean, we had barely begun, but last year there were 4 choices of which of these brands or these logos or these brands do you associate with the school district, and the real one was the 3rd choice, and it had something like 0.08% of the people chose that. So that was a really good baseline because now we know we need to get out there. We didn't really have a brand before, so that was a good way for people to get a baseline so we can look at growth along those lines. Also, there was information that was shared with schools in terms of were there areas that people were very happy with or very unhappy with. The biggest problem with that is we weren't able to break it down by which school, because this was a district-wide one and it wasn't developed school by school, so we didn't always have specific information on specific schools. Some schools do their own, again, through SurveyMonkey.
Some do.
Some do.
And the others don't lie?
Great question.
I'm just curious.
No.
I'm sure there's some reason. I just like to know. The reason I'm asking these is not to actually cause any trouble, but
No.
the implementation of a strategic plan and a comprehensive one like this over multiple years means change, and change always means upset.
Yes.
And for some, if communications go out in surveys and they feel like nothing happens to them, then cynicism rises, and then it becomes, yeah, what's the next new plan? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just curious about what happens to that. And you said the principal meetings and the like, which is good. If they address those things, then great, excellent. The other question I have, and then one comment, is there anything in the school district, I've come living outside and my kids haven't been to school in a long, long time. Is there an intranet within the school district for teachers and staff to belong to? And they can post on that, I'm assuming?
So
Sort of like a Facebook inside?
It's actually, and I don't have the link where I would pull it up and show it to you, but we are developing, we have had an intranet before, but it's kind of antiquated and it's more just posting and kind of miscellaneous actually. But our department, our digital manager has actually been working on developing an intranet that's very similar to the school district website, but it's very internal and has a lot of HR type stuff and the departments can share information. It looks fantastic.
And individuals?
Yeah,
So if I were.
everyone can log in.
If I were a teacher somewhere, then I would have an
You
account.
can log in,
Can log
correct.
in. Okay,
You
that's
would
good,
use,
actually.
your
I like the
website,
idea.
yeah. And I believe that we're trying to launch that in January, if not.
Oh, that quick?
Yeah.
No, that's good. All right, that's an important thing. You have a very challenging job when the attention spans are minuscule these days. And you gotta grab somebody's attention real quick, and open rates are terrible. And they are. I mean, I send out newsletters and I look at the open rates and oh my God, nobody's paying attention to this. So I understand that, and the implementation of a strategic plan is not simple. almost always very rewarding, but the average person often doesn't see that very well. So communications, from most people's perspective, is somewhat one-sided. It's a broadcast, and you have a podcast, which is a great idea, and you got all these other things. So that's why I asked about the intranet and the response and the surveys, because you need some sort of feedback loop to identify, well, we're trying to implement this grand plan, which is a great plan, well thought out. Where are we getting hiccups? What are they saying in the field about this? And of course, you can't get overreactive of every little objection that may come along, but you still want to know what they are to try and diffuse something that's going along. So, great, that is.
One quick thing on the intranet,
That would still be subject to public records requests, correct?
Yes, anything that
so that's, I think, the only thing I think that would just be,
Important to know if we're gonna have that, like,
my company has intranet, guess what,
it's not public. Right, it's a company portal, but here in a public school system, I think it'd be very important to let the employees know that, yes, this is intranet and it should be,
just within, between your colleagues and you,
but do know, just like your emails, it's all subject to public records requests.
Yeah, and like Facebook, it's out there. I mean, it wouldn't be the same, but it is the same in principle. You put it out there, it's out there.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna read it.
Oh, yeah.
And so you wanna be aware of that.
Yeah, and I think the district, from what I've seen, is very good about communicating, over-communicating, that anything you say on your cell phone or on the website, I mean, there's disclaimers everywhere. If you as a member of the public, call the school district, put anything in writing, send us an email, then you become part of that public record. So I do know we're very good about that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll throw one in. One of my frustration points is that the quality of maintenance of the websites, school to school, is very different.
Mhm.
And some schools are good about updating their websites and others are not. And when you're trying to navigate and just, I would assume for parents with kids in more than one school, it can be difficult, so.
I'll give an example of that, just to sort of piggyback. I have a niece who was performing in a Veterans Day, a school planned Veterans Day celebration on Friday, and so I went to the school website to see what time it was, and it was still the welcome letter from the principal from the first day of school. So those are the kinds of things that, people will use the website if there's current information on there. I used to be in charge of the district website for school districts, so that's kind of another thing that I'm sort of passionate about. But people will come to the website if the information is current. If it's outdated, they'll stop going. You know that.
Yeah, so actually that was the frustration where it came from too, and part of the challenge is that there isn't that position that exists at the schools, that's what they do. So you can have a wonderful district website because that's what they do, but at the school, it can be a teacher, it can be a secretary,
Is it a stipended position?
Yeah, but it's not, elaborate, it's not extravagance there, so. But it is, so that's the challenge there, and there are a lot of movements, especially in clerical level positions, so you can have someone that's totally trained on doing it, and then next thing you know, they're gone, and then you have to start over. So that's part of the frustration there, and I think a welcome back letter is a lot better than last year's information, but it's still not good. But it's still not good. One thing that we did where I came from, and hopefully maybe we can implement here, I don't know if they have that. We had a checkout system, and all the principals and they, the administrators of the school sites could not leave to, enjoy their summer until they did certain things. And one of the things was in communications, and that always included the website. And we always had them update their calendar, have the latest news and information, have the first day of school, specific information that had to be updated before they left, so that they can be excused. So that's something that kind of got them going every year. It's like, the same thing at the beginning of the year, like you have to have this, you have to have this. And it was constant check-in, like you haven't done your website, you haven't done your newsletter. And then it would come from the superintendent, so it would escalate, and then it would be the superintendent, where's your newsletter? I mean, I would do it for him, but yes. Oh,
I guess why wouldn't that be a district level position? You're putting basically 100 different websites in 100 different hands. To me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Even like, I have schools.
Activities that we have to promote.
Yes.
Right, but so you should have someone like you, let's say that your job is to communicate to someone
To the district.
at the district level who puts it up. I look at school websites all the time. There's schools no bell schedule. There's schools where there's no, you can't email the administrator because their information isn't on the website. So there to have 100 different people responsible for 100 different websites, why not have you have a point of contact at Challenger, whose job is to send updates to the person that puts it on the site. And that person, if it's not there, then you're done.
Unfortunately, well, the time it takes me to update our website is faster than it would be to put in a request to the district. That being said, I
But that's
think
you.
well, no, believe me, if anybody doesn't have time to do it, it's me.
No, I'm saying you're able to do it.
But I
Okay,
am, yeah, because I'm the school webmaster.
Because yours works, I know you.
But, yes, I work really hard at keeping it updated, but I will say that, changing of the guards, it's changed 3 times, 3 different people, and there isn't a training for me to go to, I really
Right.
just kind of figured it out.
I guess that's another,
But, yeah, there's definitely an opportunity there. What you're saying though, I mean, I think that there should be some type of an audit, something that each school needs to say, these are the things that need to be in place on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. It's been my pet peeve for years that certain things from the district should just automatically pop up, which we get the district news and things like that, but I feel like DAC meetings, board member meetings, all of that should be like right there. There are a lot of filters, like you gotta click on students, then it goes to like PTO, then it goes to like SAC until you can like get to our minutes, and it's really difficult. But the biggest issue that we've been having, and this is all the schools that I've talked to, because I've reached out to our webmaster, Laura Howard here, and I reached out to other schools, is that we use real-time calendars nowadays. We use Google Calendars. We use things where we're putting up, okay, we have an after-school volleyball game, or hey, we need to go to this, we're going on a field trip next week. That has to immediately feed onto our school websites, and it's not. There's no way to embed, or, well, I'm not gonna say there's no way. No one's been able to, tell me to put that live calendar onto our district website. So it's almost like we're trying to integrate Google Media with our website, and I don't know if they're just not jiving or what the deal is. It has been the bane of, I have a text to my principal, like from an hour and a half ago going, fix this, because I find out about it and then I post it, and now our parents are so upset because they're like, why don't you guys communicate? Why don't you tell us when events are going on? And I'm like, oh my gosh, we tried. We really tried. You know, and there's a way to do that by setting up Google calendars so that it doesn't, we don't put on internal meetings, like our faculty meetings don't need to go on the same calendar, you know, separate calendars, but supposedly that Google Calendar can't get embedded. So whether it be a district person from, you know, down here that does it, or our schools, but parents want that calendar, and then they'll say to me, well, I look at the focus calendar, and I'm like, nobody even knows how to find that. Like, I'm glad you parents are looking at it, but as far as teachers go, we don't know how to even put stuff on focus calendar. So that's just such an easy little thing to tweak that improves communication. It streamlines our processes. It helps to make us look like we know what we're doing. And besides, teachers and parents are working really hard to make sure that we have people attending our PTO and SAC meetings, and if we can't effectively communicate it and nobody shows up, it's really not fair to the staff either. And volleyball games and everything else, you know.
One of the things,
That's my piece.
I appreciate that, because one of the things that current school websites do is engage parents. When parents can go to the school website and see current information and have easy access, easily navigate, there is a way to embed the Google Calendar.
God show me, I'll do it right now.
So maybe that's something that your web person could, you know, host even virtual trainings several times a year, where people who are school webmasters could, even if she recorded them, and they could watch them afterwards at their own time. But I think school websites being current is critically important. It sends a message about the culture of the school, not only to the parents, but to the community. And so to go to a school website and not be able to find current, accurate information is really sending the wrong message, I believe, to parents in the community.
Yeah, so I like the idea of trying to do some sort of audit here. As far as a position, I mean, there would have to be an additional person. And it would actually probably be several. I don't know how efficient that would be, considering that you'd have to put in a request and you're talking about, you know, so many schools. And so I think if anything, it just a way to be more efficient at the schools. As far as the website platform, which you're talking about, how it's not able to integrate, my understanding is this is the third company that overhauls the website in the last 6 years. So while I'm seeing some issues with the current website, I would really like to work towards trying to make it work, only because it's very frustrating. It's already hard enough to get the schools to, train and get on board, and then you start all over again. And that's just really challenging. I do agree, it's very busy. That's actually one of the things I said in my interview, and then felt really bad. Because I've done several website overhauls, not just at the district where I came from, but also the university where I was working. And for me, simplicity was always key. And so our menus are like based on who you are. So like the menu we have on the left that says, parents, teachers, whatever. That was like our main menu. So like depending on who you were, this is where you were going to click. And the district managed a lot of content on the schools. So whatever, like parent engagement, board meetings, there were certain things that automatically went on all the school websites. So that way, even if they were not updating, you at least had some current information. And we did integrate with Google Calendar, and then you could select what you wanted to see. So if you wanted to see what all the schools were doing, what the district was doing, and it was so easy. That's not the case here, but again, we have to, hopefully work internally with our webmaster and see how we can improve it, because I don't foresee us wanting to start over again, especially because School Messenger, the way we put messages out, is also the same company we use for the website. So I think it's just working with what we have. But thank you.
More than flowers, I'll send you chocolate, I'll buy you whatever you want, you got it.
What is your name? No.
I'll come through. As long as this gets fixed, I'm sure everyone around me will appreciate it, because they all listen to me.
I very much appreciate your team. And your chocolates.
And I'm gonna go ahead and hand that torch off again next year, because that webmaster stipend.
Any more questions for Irma? Okay, so last year, one of the things that came up frequently was we don't believe that there are enough ways to get input from stakeholders, and we're not sure that there are enough ways that information is going out. So if you would just take a minute and think about, how do you get your information from the district? What do you use the most? And is there anything missing there? And then what would be the best way to solicit input from you and people that you know? Is it through a survey? Is it through a focus group? Is it through phone calls? What ways do you see that are not being utilized perhaps, or being underutilized in gathering information from the public to help improve the district? So I'll give you about a minute to think about it, and then we'll just go right around and ask everybody for their input.
Cindy, if I could, before the committee starts this work, I happen to be developing a course on universal design leadership. So I've been reading this book, and as I'm reading it, flying here and there to different conferences this fall, I've been making notes, and some of the notes I've made pertain to this committee, because some of the things I've read, I thought, I'm gonna bring this up in CSI, this kind of pertains to what we're doing. So I wanted to just read this really short blurb, because I think it sort of hits on what we're trying to do here in terms of communicating, what we're looking for. And the book is called Universally Designed Leadership, and it's by Katie Novak and Kristen Rodriguez, because I know we're being recorded, so I want to make sure I'm citing properly. But a part of building a culture of improvement is scaffolding the skills necessary to receive coaching and evaluation feedback well. Most importantly, we want to teach our stakeholders to expect it. We do this by owning our weaknesses in our needs assessment, encouraging feedback, and then reflecting publicly on how the feedback will improve future goal setting and strategy.
Perfect.
Okay. So do you want us to get into small groups, or?
You're already with a partner, so if you want to jot down your own notes, or you want to talk to your partner, we'll give you about a
So
minute.
when you're going to gather information, the first question.
Yeah.
Basically, what strategies
It just doesn't. I tried to use this. And it's hard to.
Maybe really immature, you're gonna take a picture with you.
In fact, trying to get the agenda.
What?
in minutes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They not believe you're here.
Put in a search and find like, there's no menu. So.
Everybody's easy wise.
It's really good. So that needs to be addressed.
Found the-
And as far as.
We're on it.
Getting-
But yes,
Here's what I get.
My kid's gonna play this. So,
okay.
today,
Ask.
the school can send me a message, but I don't know what that's. But other ones was just in text. Out. Now it's going to go to Wednesday, so 15th. So that one's good. There's no school Monday. Those are easy ones there. Those I see. Like here, this last week, like I did. Yeah, but it's just like. Right, yeah. Up here to like play voicemail, I don't know
And usually we can like that.
But I guess here, this, like, I just listen to it now. If you text me, your student is absent, and I didn't know that, then, so there, I think it's, this was, like, here's like, if I didn't know my kid was absent, right now, it's now freaking out.
So it was the same size.
Edinburgh is such a small school that I get they call it from the school as opposed to from the district. So I read that number.
Oh, the voicemail? So this was like that text number that.
Need another minute or two, or are you ready to talk? Another minute? Okay. One more minute.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one. There's no individual calls going out there. And I think to gather the points is a good idea.
It's a really good question. I'm with you.
I just can't imagine.
Their job is to give feedback.
No, I would agree.
Okay, if you'll take about 10 seconds to finish up your conversation, and then we'll get some input.
Well, don't even try. It's interested in, they don't have enough connection.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. And so, probably should have written them up somewhere, but I'll just repeat. Where do you generally get your information from the district? Is there another way that you would prefer to get information? And then how can the district solicit information from you or from others that you know? Let's start here at this table.
I can tell you what the superintendent, I think, does a great job communicating to the public and is actively involved. I see him, whatever luncheons I'm going to throughout the month, I guarantee he shows up at one or two of them every month. And he's speaking about something, what school district is doing. I think the foundation does a great job communicating to the public the needs of the school district. And I think that State of the Union address, they do it at the
State of the schools in May.
at the
Broadway Palm.
It's excellent, and I go to that every year, and I'll get everything that happened the year before, and everything what's been planned for that year. I think that is an excellent community engagement type of activity that's open to anybody who wants to come sit and listen. I'm surprised that place isn't overflowing all the time, but there's empty seats, so I guess, how do you get people there? So I guess the question is, then how do you get feedback back from, the kind of citizens or people? What we were talking about is like, as far as parents that have kids in the schools, they're very eager to volunteer and be engaged to the PTAs and for that specific school where their students are attending that school. And like I said, I had kids that were at Fort Myers High School and now we've got kids at Allen Park, and I said the individual school support of the individual school is there and you can get that. So the question is, how do you engage, expand that, get people to say, hey, it's really district-wide is what you should be focused on, not just the specific school. So you move or you go to a different zone, now you've got another school that your kids may be going to, and you spent all the time and energy focusing on making this school the best for the 3 years or 4 years of your kids there. You might be better served to think about this on the district-wide level so that you're bringing up the level of every school district-wide. But I don't know how you get that engagement, how you get these people, and for all the citizens too that don't have any kids in the school, hopefully they have, daughters or grandsons or whatever that are being involved in the school district or have relatives that work for the school district. It's such a big employer for Lee County that it's important that everybody recognizes and gets engaged with it. It's just, I'm not sure how you take that to the next level where, like I said, I can see it's very school by school by school, people are interested in that specific school. They just can't get them up to that next level. So I guess the answer is not really what how do
You have anything to add to that?
Only a little. You left it to me to be there. I had a hard time getting the agenda in the minutes.
Okay.
It's not a user-friendly interface to try and find. I found them. I did get to them, of course, but
I didn't. I tried.
there's probably some addressing that can be done in the menus to make it a little simpler, because I finally had to do a search for CSI to get anywhere near, because I couldn't find anything on the page that linked me to. I'm sure it's there, I just couldn't find it. So, but that's ongoing, and it happens all the time, because I've written a lot, and I've discovered that I know exactly what I'm saying, but when somebody reads it, they may not get that same message. And so, that's why I need editors to say, what are you talking about? And so, the feedback from users is always important. As to getting information from others, human nature is bound by benevolent self-interest. We're interested in what we're interested in. And we're not particularly interested in the rest of the school district because I'm not there. My kids are in this particular school, and maybe eventually they will be, but I'm not thinking that far ahead at all. So I think that's just a lost cause in trying to get a more comprehensive view. The other side of it is the complicated nature of life. It's always been complicated, more so now, and I think most of us are like Legos, the Lego block. We only have so many connecting points, and we're all snapped up. I've got so many connections everywhere, so it is beholden upon those like you and us who are trying to implement things to find out where, somewhere do we connect with somebody, and it takes a little bit of thought. It's pretty simple to send newsletters or surveys, and, well, maybe not so simple, but it's easy to broadcast. But that's not always the most effective way of getting a response. And nothing is 100%, doesn't matter, we'll try. But whatever those connecting points are, it really happens at the ground level. It doesn't happen at the communications office. They learn about it, and they do what they can to implement and integrate that. But it's people walking the hallways. One of my former clients works at Dunbar High School, great guy. And he's well connected. I'm not sure all the thing he does at the school, but you can tell he really interacts and connects with a lot of people, students and staff there. And that's really where it happens. I mean, you get the information to them somehow, and the next thing you know, it's everywhere, and then he hears things as people talk to him. So it's not a simple issue, although the principles are very simple, harder to implement.
And hard to do on a large scale.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard to do. That's why I think that, like you mentioned, it happens at my school. Well, that's probably where those things are gonna happen. And it's even more important that those local schools are updating the website, because that's where it's happening, is they're in that local venue. I won't take any more time.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks. So one of the things Jack mentioned that it dawned on me, and as he said it, is maybe one of the things that we need to do at the first meeting every year with this committee is kind of put up a tutorial and walk people through how to access both the minutes and the meetings, and how to sign up for the alerts so that people are getting notified, because if you're new to the committee or, nobody ever explained it to you, maybe that's why you can't access them.
I'll take all the help I
You're
can
having a
get.
hard time, so that might be a good thing for us to do in this committee at the beginning of every year. One of the things I wanted to touch on is, obviously it's important to have parents engaging and providing feedback, but it's also really important that the community does that as well. So maybe one idea would be to have a communications campaign of some sort where we're letting the community know why it's a shared responsibility to care about the school district. Let them find value in the school district, even if they don't have children in schools in Lake County, so that they understand why their support is important, even if they don't have kids in school. And also the idea of how do we get people to get our information? So I think one of the ways to start is, I don't want to harp on this, but I think it's really important. We can't dismiss school websites and then say, well, why can't we get any information from people? Like, that's all part of a holistic picture of how we're communicating with people. So it's not just the school websites, but that is part of it. And so if we're saying, well, they only get paid $100 and there's a million other things people have to do, and I understand that, I used to do this exact thing. If we create a culture at every school where the principal is letting people know why it's important to have current information on the school website, then maybe we can make a change, and maybe that has to come from the district down, I don't know, but I think that's part of the holistic picture of how we're putting information out there. And I think that's it. Oh, the other thing we talked about is location-based working with the community. I know Lee County does some of that. And before I keep going with all my negative stuff, I just want to say that I do a lot of stuff with Lee County. I was in a meeting earlier today, and there's no group of people that's harder working and more dedicated to doing this kind of work. So I don't want it to be out there like the district's doing nothing great, because I see lots of great things happening all the time. But maybe we could have some location-based communication for folks who, parents who can't come to the district to be part of parent groups because it's too far, because of the timing, whatever, where we could meet in churches or other nonprofit organizations where you might get community members to be able to come and, like the schools do, offer snacks, offer child activities so parents can pay attention to what's going on, those kinds of things. That's it.
Oh, you're passing it on to, I'll wait till everybody's gone. Cause I don't want to count I do.
I get a lot of my information through emails that are sent out, like big blast emails, but I think, especially talking to my mom, my brother just graduated, so she's been with this district since he was in like 4th grade. But she gets really annoyed with all of the different methods that we blast out information. Like there's, like you said, there's all types of different programs we use, and then there's the focus and the school websites, and then the parent links that we use to do phone calls, all that type of thing. I think if we prioritize one method, whether it be emails or a specific application or something, and sent out all of our information through that one application, that would make it a lot easier on the parents and a lot more stress-free, and then we could also get out more information that way. So as far as the physical way we get the information out, I think that'd be better. And then that's a good way to do, or to get the feedback, is through like emails, for example. If that's the one that everybody chose, you tell the parents at open house, we send out all of our information through email. And then you tell them at every event, get everything through email. And then at the end of the year, if you send out a form through their email, they're already expecting it, they're ready, and they know where to look. They're not having to search for these things. So I think focusing on it in one little area would make it a lot better. And then as far as like little things go, getting little information like events and things out there, like things like that, I think we don't have enough faith in our students. Like I know, as far as like elementary school, like they can't always relay the information back to their parents, but when it comes to higher levels, I think giving them the information, a lot of them give their parents more information than you might think. I know everybody tells their parents everything about what happens at school as far as like education and things like that go.
My 6th grader would probably be the exception to that rule.
I just know, like, if one of my teachers tells me an event that's going on or things like that, I'll definitely tell my parents. And a lot of my friends do too, so, utilizing the students more than we already do would be a big thing. Telling them, because I didn't even know we did PTO still or anything like that. So I feel like if we tell the students tell their parents, and then through the emails or through some centralized channel that we could work with, would be a lot easier.
I have to say, I'm very happy to hear that somebody tells their parents something.
Me too.
The morning of, so, it's like, Dad, you have $5 in that. But, yeah, I think it's a good point. We were talking a bit, and you know, I'm probably a little more connected because of my job, and it involves interacting with the district a little bit more than some others, on a certain level, particularly with the workforce and the career and technical education side of things. So I pay a little bit more of attention, I will say that I find it easier to respond. I get my kid, my youngest, goes, Edison Park, it's a very small school, so rather than get a text message that just comes from the district like all the others, I'll get one specifically from the school, or I'll get a phone call that shows the school's phone number, and I know to answer that, because sometimes if it's just a generic district email, that one I'll ignore for a little while, but if it comes from the phone number that I have under Edison Park, I answer that one, or I look at it. And so maybe how we, I don't know what the system is to do it, where it's more personalized towards your specific school, so you're not getting lost in the clutter of everything the district is sending out, because some of it resonates with me, and some of it's for a parent down the block that has a different engagement level than I do. Also, as my daughter's over in the student advisory committee, and I was, is there a parents advisory committee, just a broader, have people that go back to the school, and how do we connect, if we have a representative from each school, parent representative that needs to do something like that, and be the champion for their school and the conduit back and forth to help the webmasters for each school or something.
We actually have DAC,
Okay,
but it's not effective in doing what you
okay,
suggested, and that's something that needs to change.
so,
And DAC doesn't have to be a parent.
No, it does not.
Right.
But that's
Yeah.
who the school selects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the problems with DAC is that too many parents aren't involved, and so teachers end up being the ones who get represented on DAC.
Um,
My humble opinion.
I think for me, I can't cite statistics, but text messages get looked at way more than emails or anything else, like our phone buzzes, it's our, what, electronic leash now, like it, Pavlov's dog, like it buzzes and look, right, that's everyone here. So for me, text messages have been the best way for me to get information from the school, I think, because it pops up and I can read it real quick. Right, I think one of the things that I just click through, like, hey, I got one today, but it says, listen to this. And it's, my son was absent from school this morning. I'm like, well, I actually knew that, but I'd be freaking out right now if I just found out because I had to click on something and hope I'm on Wi-Fi and hope I can play a message that he's there, instead of it just saying, your son was absent today. So I think like simple is sometimes better. Like if sometimes like, hey, join us for McDonald's Dine Out, like that's what it said. But how about, hey, Jack was absent today, would have been like really great to know instead of click and hope I can connect on stuff. But Morgan, I think what you said is like maybe what I've been thinking, but my brain couldn't put it together. So I get texts, I get phone calls, there's a website, there's Dojo, there's Focus, there's, what are the teachers do? PeopleSoft, there, you could probably name
And our PTA has a Facebook group.
Dozen methods that you get communicated with?
which is, in theory, sounds great, but in practice, like, makes people go insane.
So if it was just communicated, hey, every parent, if they don't have a smartphone, then we need another option, right? We can't.
Just say everyone should have a smartphone, that's not fair. But
If you have access to a smartphone,
download this app, everything is through one thing. And I think that's for students, I think it's for parents,
I think it's for employees.
so like some things like Class Dojo, I'm like,
This is great, like I get a thing here and then I'm with
with my wife, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, the teacher sent us a message that my kid has a test coming up, and here's 2 Quizlets, but he doesn't know that unless I tell him. He's in 5th grade, I want him to start taking responsibility, but he can't if he doesn't know what's available to him, I have to hand him my phone.
So if we had, I think getting it,
Simpler, and driving down like, this is the optimal and preferred method, and the method we're going to use with an alternative for those that don't have access, I think would be great. And then in gathering information, I think focus groups are always great. The way to get it, I'm sorry, I don't know
his first name,
the guy with the best shirt.
no, not you, you just
Jack.
have a better shirt, Jack.
What Jack said about driving the message to people at the schools. If you go and
Ask 2 people at every school,
who's the one that's the most connected with the parents of the community? Jamie, give me 2 people at your school that are
most
most,
connected with parents.
I mean, I guess our website,
no, people.
Humans.
people, Courtney Hinton, our coach. And,
Didn't take you too long to think about that.
yeah,
So if we wanna have focus groups,
Yeah.
it's finding champions at the very local level, and
It is a daunting task.
but if
You can find,
you give
the directive,
it's military law enforcement, you give it to the principal and say,
you need to find 2 champions that can
put together focus groups,
and they delegate the 2 people to school,
school, and they try and round up as many people as you can.
can, then you're just reporting.
Reporting back up. I think focus groups, you get people in there, you'll get a discussion going, that's the best way to get feedback. Surveys are great, but
You know, sometimes you're just
at
at
the end, you're like,
I just gotta get through this thing.
like next. But I'd really like, you said, you know the guy at Dunbar.
Yeah,
Who knows everybody and everything,
it does.
he should be the one that's saying, hey, we're gonna do,
Like a community focus group, and have him kind of be the champion at the school to do it.
You would.
And I think what you said about, Morgan heading in the right direction, I don't know you'll ever get down to just one way of communicating, but a dozen is too many. Get it to a couple of manageable ways and stick with those.
Isn't there a way that you can choose as a parent I know this is possible in School Messenger, you can choose how you want to be communicated with. So you can choose, I only want text messages, or I want text messages and email,
Right.
don't call me.
Right, but
Can't you
that's only
select
for
that?
like if like my kid was absent today. So I chose, yes, text message me. But that doesn't stop like Peach Jar and Class Dojo and my kid having to sign in. There's like the abundance of technology and like thinking how many passwords and things people have to log into instead of
I think
one portal
separate,
in and out.
separate applications are creating too many barriers, I think. Using like all of these different companies that help us, like they're great, but I think sticking with like School Messenger that does emails, texts, and calls would be a great primary application. Using
different other separate third-party companies.
it gets too confusing, and like you said, there's a bunch of different accounts, it's a bunch of different passwords and different apps on your phone, different websites, you forget about half of them, you never check half of them, like seriously focusing it on direct communication, like emails and text messages and things like that. Would be great.
Michelle, did you have something?
I love the idea of one platform and giving people options. You know, like in School Messenger, where if everything was coming through one platform like School Messenger, and then people can choose their preferred method or methods of getting the information, and I think that might make things easier.
Well, I think a key point too is use the platform the way it's designed. Don't send a text message that has a link to a voicemail, because if I'm in a meeting and it pops up and I can read the text message, mission accomplished. But if I have to play a voicemail, I can't do that in the middle of a meeting and I've forgotten by the time I get out of it, or then if you can send a voicemail, send a voicemail. If you can send a text message, write what you got to say.
Mrs. Morgan?
Yeah, so reflecting on what some people have said in my visits to various schools, I think one of at the local level, at the school level, is really, really, really important, developing people who have capacity. So I know, for example, that some SACs are very good at being involved in their decision-making role. They are change agents for the school. They are the community connectors. But many schools are not. And different schools have different cultures, and the community connects in different ways. They may connect through student performances, they may connect through something adults do. So I think one of the things that needs to happen is that, getting back to, who are the sort of focus leader people, train people at the school level, give them the skill set they need to be the connectors and the communicators. Because each school is different, and I think if you identify the people who are the connectors, not every school, the family's gonna connect in the same way. So give the connectors training so that they can be more effective. I think that would make the DACs more effective too. But anyway, that was my thought this evening.
Any questions based on what you've heard?
Thank you for everything. I don't disagree with a lot of what you've said, but
You disagree with something?
I'm still learning what we do, so.
All right.
Give me time.
Well, thank you, we really appreciate your being here.
And thank you for taking the time to do this. This is very important to get feedback this way, so we also appreciate all of your time, so thank you. Bye, thank you.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else you wanted to follow up with?
Just real quickly, two things. Does it say like next steps or something?
It says,
Next steps.
Next steps, okay. That's me, yay. So the next steps are that we had talked, very beginning meeting, very first meeting, we talked about ways that we wanted to really get the community more engaged in the strategic plan and kind of rolling it out of a community engagement. And that is starting to take on a little bit more structure. I've met with Marshall Bauer, who is the president of the foundation. The foundation, for Lee County Public Schools Foundation. Then there's also a Southwest Florida Community Foundation. So those two foundations are going to partner with us in an event that's going to take place March 6th. It's a Friday. And it's going to be a morning event starting, this is still kind of tentative times, but we believe around 7:30 or so for breakfast and go to around noonish. And the idea is that we will have the partnership between the foundation and the district. We're going to bring in some members of the community. The foundation chair this year is Harlem Parrish. The Community Foundation Chair is Robbie Rebstorff, both very active in the community. Gary Griffin is also he's actually the past chair of the foundation, of the schools foundation, so he's going to be involved as well. We believe we're going to be able to get some additional people in and start out with sort of an overview of what is the work of the school system and why is it important to our community. From what do we do when children before they come to school, and what are those important pieces that the community has in terms of making sure our children are well taken care of and prepared through school, through what happens when they graduate, what are those pathways, college and career. Mike Martin, I believe, is going to be involved, who is the president of FGCU, to talk about, the importance of that whole stretch, and then also some other community members. So right now, the idea is that we will start this conversation and then break off into little groups that would have TED Talks, type TED Talk. A partner, but a team of a business partner and a district person who would talk a little bit more about specific areas of the strategic plan. So when we come back next time, which will actually be in January, because we're not required to have a December meeting, and looking at the number we have here, I'd be surprised if we have anybody in December. But when we come back in January, our job's going to be, I'd like you to delve a little deeper into the strategic plan and decide what information do you believe is really important for people to hear about? And what would you like to hear a little bit more about as we plan more about the actual content of this event? Okay, does that make sense? All right, I think that will be really helpful to us. I ran it by the superintendent. He was very excited about that. He said he really would like to hear the input from this committee as we go forward in planning, so I appreciate that. All right, that's it for me.
Are you gonna send out some information on that March 6th event?
Yes, I will. And we'll put a little bit more information in our minutes.
Email,
as well.
Twitter, Facebook.
I'll tweet it out. I don't do Facebook.
So it's 7:20. I don't think we have anybody from the public here. We can open it for good of the order. Does anybody have anything that they would like to offer for good of the order?
Could I kind of make an ask of you for, since there's a big time gap between now and our next meeting, to come back with some, if you can maybe email us some reminders, or if it's a group email, if everyone's all right with it, if anyone has an idea of a section or a topic they would like to have this kind of deep dive into, just reply to all, and maybe we kind of get.
We can't do a reply to all.
Okay, well then I'll reply to you.
But you can reply, yes, you can reply to me or to Julie, but not a reply to all, Sunshine, yeah.
So yeah, if you could just every week.
I'd be happy to do that.
Email out, and then I'll kind of, oh yeah, I've been meaning to do that, my holiday shopping stuff, whatever it may be, to keep us.
So January 2nd. No, yeah, yes, I'll definitely,
Talking about.
Yeah, no, I'll
To
definitely do that.
contact the people that are here tonight too, to make sure that they're prepared to bring their input as well.
I think a couple of things. When we send the minutes out, I think at the beginning of the minutes, we'll send an email out with sort of a synopsis, because that's a great idea since we do have so many people absent tonight. And then an update, probably, this is November, so before Christmas break, before we leave for winter break, and then right when we get back to kind of remind people that it's coming up. So we'll do 3 different ways.
Okay.
But, well, one method, 3 different times.
No peach jar flyers.
No peach jar flyers.
You can't afford it.
So I just wanted to reiterate what Cindy said, that it says it on the website right now, I'm sure we're gonna take it off, but we don't have a December 11th meeting, so the next time we're gonna be meeting is January 8th. Just wanna make sure everybody's clear about that. And just one more point for good of the order, I'll be really quick, because I know everybody's gonna get home really late. I had brought up at the last meeting, and I also sent this to Julie and Cindy for something that should be on the agenda. And I still feel really strongly about it, that when we're looking at the strategic plan and this committee is charged with making recommendations about the strategic plan, I would like to, instead of only having an informational session with various departments, also hear from them about what specific, I know I'm not always using the right terminology, but strategies or maybe action items that the various departments are using to achieve the goals that are listed in the strategic plan. Because I think it's really difficult for us as a committee to make recommendations if we don't know what the individual departments are planning to do in order to achieve those goals. So if we could, when we set up meetings with the various departments as we go through the rest of the year, maybe ask them to come prepared to share with us some of the action items that they've developed within the department on how they're planning to achieve those goals in the strategic plan. I think it would make this committee more valuable in terms of offering feedback on those items.
And I believe that in the past they have done that to a great extent, but what's even more, this year we are doing workshops with the board on each of the 5 long-term objectives. And Mrs. Morgan mentioned that at the last board workshop, Dr. Spiro was there with a team that was looking at increased academic success. And they went into a lot of detail about, and this was over an hour, but they went into a lot of detail about the exact plans, what's going on right now, what are some strategies they're using. The strategies are actually listed in the plan, but these are more of their action plans and the things that are happening. At the workshop tomorrow morning, there will be 2 more areas covered. It'll be kindergarten readiness and the increased college and career readiness. And they, again, will be talking about specific things that they're doing along those lines. So we can certainly ask them to come and repeat that along the way, or those are recorded and are on YouTube, so that those are available as well. And they go pretty, and would you agree, they go pretty far in depth there?
Yeah, they're very in-depth. I was just gonna suggest you send everybody the links.
Yes, good.
Because once you've seen the board interaction with the staff, then that may help clarify for you what concerns you might wanna have addressed when they come speak. And that way, when they come speak, they may be able to talk specifically to concerns people in the committee have based on what they've heard already.
Yeah, that's an
absolutely.
excellent suggestion, is maybe that's something that we can sort of individually, as part of this committee, take ownership of, is kind of making time to watch those links, those YouTube videos, and kind of familiarize ourselves a little bit better with some of the action items that departments have developed to achieve those goals of the strategic
Great.
plan.
And those minutes are posted, right? So could we add that to our agenda also, so that we could have a link to the minutes to preview before we come in? Aside from just watching.
Yes, I don't think we have minutes, the links we can send you, and they're recorded, but Susan, I don't believe they take minutes for that. It's like,
No, so the PowerPoint would be on the agenda.
right,
And then the meeting would be on YouTube.
YouTube.
But generally, the PowerPoints are incorporated into the presentation, so I don't think you miss anything if you just do.
well, she was asking about minutes, but I don't believe they take minutes for workshops, no.
PowerPoint's made public or not?
They are, they're on board docs.
So if we pick one and say, okay, let's look at this PowerPoint and or watch the video before the meeting, then we can come and have a conversation.
Absolutely.
That would really.
Yeah, so we'll send you that link. And yes, you can reach it from the website, but I do understand.
Facing north.
5 workshops?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the videos on YouTube.
4, because they're doing 2 together, for total.
Tomorrow is 2.
Yes, tomorrow has kindergarten readiness and college and career readiness
Those
together.
workshops are open to the public?
Yes, they are. They're open to the public. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., right next door. And I don't have the dates in my head for the next 2, but it's the next 2 workshops.
How many people showed up to the other workshop from the public?
No one.
The parties they don't know about it.
I don't believe anyone was here from the public for the last workshop. There might have been a couple, but I don't think so, not generally. No. And they are open, they are advertised. All of the agenda and the presentations are on board docs, which you can get to from the district website. So, yep, they're all available, and we'd love to have people there.
Well, if nobody has anything else, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
No, no.
Okay.